is paused. Okay, so we should be live right now. All right, folks, what's up? This is DJL7, and I'm honored to be here with my special guests today, Andy Williams Jr. and also Muti Ojamo Sebaru, representing Illinois and also Pennsylvania, respectively. I really look up to these guys, and actually today, Muti's been an amazing activist, but today Andy Williams is kind of like taking the forefront with this whole abolition movement. I've done some criminal justice reform stuff, but he actually has a different perspective. So go ahead, Andy, kick it off.
Yes. About a week ago, man, I came up with this new title, like I'm a jailhouse organizer. You know, we got a lot of community organizers, but because I'm a former jailhouse lawyer, I'm really looking at ways that this revolutionary lawyering can collaborate with these brothers and sisters behind the wall for abolition. Because what I do, being from Illinois, I study these constitutions across the states, but in Illinois, they say Article 1, Section 11, the goal is to restore you back to citizenship. So when they come out with habitual offender or felony murder or 3 strikes, anything like that, that violates Article 1, Section 11 of the Illinois Constitution, because it's not restoring you back to citizenship, it's increasing the penalty. So what we're doing right now is starting to repeal these unconstitutional statutes. You know, all across the states, I always hear people say, well, we want to pass legislation. I'm not trying to pass legislation. We have the power to repeal the 1994 crime bill, the Controlled Substance Act, the 3 strikes. And the way we do that I'm seeing it is through the formerly incarcerated running for Congress, becoming the elected officials, so then we can finish the work of the Reconstruction, which is 13th, 14th, 15th Amendment, Ku Klux Klan Act, stuff like that. And so in order to be able to do that, we have the power, you know, in the spirit of Marcus Garvey, Malcolm X, talking about if people just understood the power we had, and if we understood what politics in our community, what they're supposed to produce, why don't we get elected and do it? Because it hasn't happened in the last 50 years. I'm 53. So I'm saying we have the power to do that. And one of those ways is to run for Congress. And if 2/3 of Congress is all aligned, this ain't about parties, this is about people and our power, then we go in with the straight mindset is we're going to repeal these unconstitutional property taxes, fines, and fees, and then incarceration without rehabilitation. But any possession, stuff like that, we getting rid of all that because there's no injured party, which violates the standing argument in the feds. Federal court, Article 3 standing. So the people don't have standing, but the Congress has standing. So that's the arguments, you know, that we pushing, which is strictly abolition mindset. And that is a tool that I think we can reduce mass incarceration, because very rarely do I hear people talking about repealing these unconstitutional statutes. So it's revolutionary is what I see. And I ran for president before, the first non-attorney, and in this context, formerly incarcerated non-attorney to run for attorney general, which I got a suit against him right now, based on the restriction with the ballot access and stuff like that. So most of the work that I'm doing is still through lived experience and not based on, you know, somebody else's interpretation. And in closing, I know with all these organizations across the states, we have the power to take this 2028 election and become that 2/3 that we need, which is just 300 people. So as we organize across the states, which final close, I'm gonna say, through our prisoners' voting rights, we're in the process of filing a national class action lawsuit with 2 classes. One, the people that are still incarcerated and their right to vote under the 15th Amendment. And then the second class that are outside the wall, their right to vote, but we're only focusing on the federal election. We're not focusing on the states right now. The first step is just to ensure. So we take legislation, which is the Inclusive Democracy Act, and put it into litigation under the 15th Amendment. And based on this Trump versus Anderson case, we feel we're going to prevail. And I've already talked to 2.5 lawyers. I say 2.5 because my brother in DC has not committed yet. But that's the goal, man. And we trying to get a point of contact in every state. Right now, we have 23 states with a point of contact behind the wall. And Georgia is killing it. We got about 50 members out in Georgia right now. So they lead in the front.
Thank you so much. Sure. Just so you know, I work with, I've never been incarcerated myself, but I actually work with a broad coalition, including disabled people, because I've been homeless before. I'm actually homeless right now, working with, and a lot of people that are formerly incarcerated are on the streets. And what happens is that I have to tell you that out of all my coalition, the people who are formerly incarcerated are really doing phenomenal work. And you, Andy Williams, actually within that esteemed, category of people, right? You really stand at the top, because people who've been formerly incarcerated have more experience at fighting the system, especially on a legal front. So they're really amazing partners. And if I had to say there's kind of like a group that's kind of like in last place, I'd have to say that's kind of like public housing, unfortunately. They don't really have, a lot of them are used to kind of having the handouts, saying they're not really used to fighting for themselves. They've been trained to become weak. So really appreciate Andy Williams, and he's the inspiration for this project today. And just phenomenal work, yeah. And once again, he's doing the real actual work of learning how to. He ran for president. Now he's running for. He ran for attorney general. He's really learning the system that we need to take power. I also want to introduce Muti and his friend right there. Muti is also an incredible activist. He just got out recently, one of the longest march men in U.S. history, but he's amazing. You're about to hear from him right now. Go ahead.
Big up to Seven, and it's a pleasure to meet you, brother Andy. Let's go back, because I'm a stickler for language. In studying linguistics and etymology, and of course, you study the law. You know that language is crucial, vital. They used to try to hang that tag on me, so-called jailhouse lawyer. I despise that term. I would always tell them that I'm a lawyer that has not been authorized by white people. So you see that language is important to me. Is deadly and vital. What you were talking about in terms of formerly imprisoned, running and securing office, I lost a brother in Louisiana, and yes sir, and you see the measures that they took to try to box him out. You know what I'm saying? So it tells you it's a hell of a tool. I mean, of course, it's not the panacea. It's not the cure-all. It's not going to, change our lives, all the way across the board. But it's a hell of a tool. And as long as we keep that in perspective, we can get a lot done and understand that we can put it in the toolbox. And when we need other tools, we will do so. One of the things we wanted, and first of all, I'm all in. What you just laid out and put there, I want to be the project in Pennsylvania. We have a vast network. We're doing crazy work on the ground. Boots on the ground, hardcore, in and out. And we travel. Everywhere, and we go places and do the same thing. Not just in the state of Pennsylvania, but all the way across the country. I work with, just to name a few, I'm an intricate part of Western Pennsylvania's Participatory Defense Hub, which is a connection between Allegheny County, which is where Pittsburgh is, and Erie County. They merged the two. And we do hella work across the country, in Pennsylvania, obviously across the country. We done been to Louisiana, California, Georgia, and I think Louisiana too. But we break the teams up. Everybody don't go everywhere. Right. Different people go different part of the cadre. So we're doing great work there. Also working with what's called West Philadelphia Participatory Defense Hub, and we're getting ready to create our own Germantown Participatory Defense Hub. I'm also the representative for women, the Philadelphia representative for Women Who Never Give Up, which was created out in South Jersey by Sister Gail Muhammad. Yes. They're doing
I know
amazing.
Gail.
Yeah, yes, sir.
Yeah,
yes, sir. Gail is doing amazing work. And matter of fact, she just came back from Chicago. I was supposed to be with her and Jody from NY Law School.
Yeah, I was
Jody.
there.
Okay.
Yeah, at the legal empowerment thing, that community with.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Yes, sir. Yeah, they just came back. I think
kindred,
Say it again.
I said we kindred. We
yes, sir. Indeed. That's everything you said resonates with me, brother. I'm excited. Because I know the power of connection, and I know the power of understanding and getting on one accord so we can make things happen. And that's what 7 is really about.
100%.
Come on, man. Oh, this is a prison call, man. I'm a cancel that. Yeah. Just by the way, I don't know. I'm gonna just mention this because there was a prison call that just came in. I get prison calls from all over the country. Question: maybe you see this in your travels because I'm quite sure you get prison calls too. Lately, they've been doing this thing where sisters and brothers from these different death camps, they'll call, right? And the phone won't ring. So that's a new technique that they done created to have people call you, but it won't ring on your phone. So therefore, you don't never answer the phone, and the person that's calling you think that you're being neglectful of them. You know what I'm saying? Now, just now, it rang. It didn't ring. It beeped simply because we're live on air now. But other than that, it wouldn't have rang. You know what I'm saying? So I got to now, normally I keep my phone face down. Now I got to keep it face up and watch it so that when it comes, I know how to move on it. Normally it comes through my watch, and when my watch jumps, then I could, then I could catch the call. But try to look out for that, because we had one of the comrades, Reverend Chris Jimenez, he talked about that, how he mentioned it in passing. And I listened, but I didn't really pay attention to it because it had already victimized me and I didn't even know it. And then when I seen it for my own eyes, I said, damn, this is what Rev Chris was just talking about, where they then created some type of technology so that when the comrades and sisters and brothers from behind enemy lines are calling us, but it's not ringing on our phone. And so they get the idea that they calling us and that we no longer answer their calls. You know, behind enemy lines, you get frustrated,
right,
sometimes real quick when you don't really understand what's going on. But anyway, with that said, there are many things that you talk about, and I think I want to go into depth as we go along. I don't want to try to monopolize the time, but as we go on, I want to touch on some of those things, and as we push forward and continue. I got a lot of comrades in Illinois. I want to connect you with them, and they doing great work. I got one comrade, he's out in Vegas right now having a ball, but he's doing serious work, and I want to connect you with him as well as the whole cadre. Right now, I'm actually supposed to be doing work for the Honorable Larry Hoover and bringing him home, and his lawyer hasn't responded to me. I made initial contact. I talked to his wife. I talked to his son, Larry Hoover Jr., and some other folks that support him, but they're not moving in the way that I think they should move, because I said that, his sentence. Now the only thing that's holding him is the governor of Illinois. So we can use the president's pardon, though most people absolutely despise the president. But for us, we're using that as a ghost sign to bring the Honorable Larry Hoover home. Let's, wherever you want to go with this conversation and this dialogue, we can go. I'm open.
Well, I'm gonna tell you this. Where we're gonna go, it's not gonna be online. Where I really want to go with you, we're gonna have to do this offline.
For sure.
I come up through that. You know what I'm saying? I'm a product of growth and development. And so when I was running for president the first time, it was under that auspice right there. And so then running for attorney general, I did a whole move because I came in under the conservative party. And I did that because Illinois was the first state to ratify the 13th Amendment. And so when I was coming in, that's what I was coming in as is, look, I'm coming as an abolitionist. And now that I'm in when you understand what I mean by in, but now I'm in the table, the dude who running for governor, the one who prevailed, like I'm in his ear, because this is what I'm doing. And if there's a conflict with me, because I'm on the legal team for Jeff Ford, Chief Malik. So the attorney said there's a conflict between that, but I'm still on the legal team for Leonard Peltier. Went out and seen him when he got out of South Dakota. I just do a lot more less talking. You know what I'm saying? I'm just I'm in it doing. And what I do want to do with you, which I'm definitely with this, is we finna challenge the UPL. And so what I do is I advocate on behalf of the brothers and sisters with their paperwork under religious freedom, so now they can't hit me with the unauthorized practice of law. You can't tell me I don't have the right to covenant or contract, whichever way you want to do it, because that's my right. That's my right to occupation. And I do a lot of litigation under the Section 2 of the 13th Amendment. The first part is, you could be if you're duly convicted of a crime, which that's loose too. But the second part is Section 2 talks about it abolish all badges of slavery. So anything that looks like that was abolished too. So that's how I hit these attorneys and prosecutors and judges that I be suing. They talk about immunity. You don't have immunity because you are violating the Ku Klux Klan Act, your Oath Act. Bro, I be hitting them. And then he said, well, you don't win. Yes, I do. Every time I do it, I win because I'm not letting up.
Absolutely.
I understand the game, what we're doing, how it's moving. And that's kind of like how I came to it. Man, bro, do we realize that we picked up with the movement from the 60s of Eldridge Cleaver and Dick Gregory and them, and actually got into these political positions with the mindset to repeal? If the legislators can pass legislation, then legislators can repeal legislation. And that's where I'm coming in at. Let's repeal, pull all this stuff back, and then that's going to set the prisoners of war free, the POWs, as I call it. And this POWs outside the wall, so they ain't just limited to behind that wall on the plantation.
Yes, sir. It's prison on both sides of that 40-foot wall.
Yeah.
Double military razor wire fence.
And this people don't even think they're POWs, man. When I was sitting here with these conservatives listening to them, I'm like, the majority of the people is a prisoner of this oppressive regimen, this system that from its founding. And when I come at them with this doctrine of discovery, bro, they don't know what to say. Right. But I'm calling you out on it, and I'm trying to tell us, I'm sharing with the people, this is how we utilize our power as the people. We infiltrate the system like they did here. We going in COINTELPRO. This ain't about Democrats or Republicans. This is about liberation, bro. Yeah, it's got to be a strategy that moves on, and not no fake strategy. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm not coming in here with no hidden agenda. Liberation is and always will be my ultimate goal for we the people. That's it. This is what we're gonna do. Because I ain't trying to have my grandkids be fighting no crap that we should have did away with right now. This is our time, bro. This it. So that's the move that we take. And why I'm saying what this is why our conversation needs to be offline. Because too many people want to show their hand and be recognized for what they doing. Bro, that ain't my story.
Yeah, we don't need no recognition.
No. You recognize you can't find it.
We just need results.
Yeah.
we just need results.
For sure.
That's one of the things that me and Seven talk about. Like, I fuck credit. Give credit to somebody else. I said, because like we're not interested in credit or recognition, but what we won't do is we won't allow these jack-leg gatekeepers to take credit for something they know they didn't do just so they can parlay that into a check or some grant money. You know what I'm saying? And say, you did this. No, you did. Those of us who are conscientious did that, came up with the idea, the concept, and actually did the work. You got it, you bid it, and then now you want to parlay it into a grant. I'm not into folks taking grant money and all. I'm not against any of that. You get it how you can, because it's all tools of warfare. But at the end of the day, I don't need credit. We don't need recognition. We just want to do the work. We're interested in results, and let the chips fall where they may.
For sure.
If I could just chip in just for a second, the thing is that I'm pretty sure you guys have read or listened to Malcolm X's message to the grassroots. And the thing is that when you take a look at for example, the anti-war movement, most people cannot name a war victim. It's like a civil rights movement with no black people, or a women's suffrage movement with no women in it. It's there's a lot of celebrities and political leaders speaking for the anti-war movement, and really what they're doing is they're raiding the money, and the fact is that they're keeping it. The reason why we're in forever wars are the people that are most impacted having a voice in the actual reform of what's going on. I think that this also happens a lot in the prison. Like I said before, there's a group locally called Fortune Society, and they're responsible for transitional housing, helping the people get used to regular society. But how much of that money is actually going to fund undercover police activities when it's an undercover police station, and how much of that money is honestly going towards helping, effective, right? Because there's always helping, and then there's effective helping, and there's a lot of people getting money for ineffective helping. So really, one of the main reasons why I want to reach out to Organization like Force Society, so I can find the list of people who are getting out of prison and help them get registered to vote, have them become, I don't know if we have something called precinct captains or something called county committee, but have them actually, like in my, in New York City, about a 4 or 5 block radius, I've talked to every single person who votes in that 4 or 5 block radius. I know how many times they vote, and I can kind of tilt the election one way or the other. And I want, if other people who are, once again, I've been very impressed by people who've been formerly incarcerated within their energy, with their willingness to fight the system, their ability to read the rules and understand them. If they can actually start to take over precinct captain positions, then we can really influence politics on a local level and take over. But because of this activity, this is highly, frowned upon by the existing party leaders, which I'm not going to say they're wrong to do, but they don't want to have any change from the status quo, which threatens their own control and position. So, we need some revolutionaries to really, if you can't take over a ballot box, how can you take over, right? People want to talk all this military talk. I'm not mad at that, but but if you can't take over the ballot box first, do you really got what it takes? I have my doubts. Does that make sense?
Yeah, one of the things you on point, you spot on. One of the points, one of the things that we just did recently. See, a lot of times you get these victories and you just move on. You don't necessarily forget about it, but you don't dwell on your laurels, right? You don't sit on them. We just got a victory. We just secured a congressional seat for basically outsider. For all intents and purposes, we just backed State Representative Chris Rabb, super radical, and we broke the back of the traditional Democratic Party. They all lined up against him, and we had all these different factions. We had the Family Workers Party, we had Democratic Socialists, we had about 4 or 5 different political entities, and then you had all of these grassroots entities get behind Rev Rab and push him, and they ran the traditional. They ran 2 candidates. Actually, it was 4 or 5 in the beginning, and then it dwindled down to 3, and it wound up being a Dr. Stanford, who a big pharma doctors industry backed her, put all these millions behind her, and then you had the traditional candidate, which was State Senator Sharif Street, who's the son of former Philadelphia Mayor John Street. And those are traditional candidates who are really like tapped out in what's going on the streets, on the ground level. And so all of the traditional candidates, the typical, what I call the blackface white supremacists, they lined up behind him, from the mayor, who's absolutely clueless, to several other I can go down the line, but they didn't understand what was going on the street level, how we was organized, and the rabid fervor of individuals for the first time being able to participate in the process independent of the Democrats and the Republicans. They didn't see what was going on, so that Jack move, they didn't see it coming. And once it hit them, we knew, those of us who was in the mix, we knew what was going to happen in the ballot box. My only concern was, would it transfer? Because a lot of times you get a lot of energy on the street and it doesn't necessarily transfer to the ballot box. But in this case, it was overwhelming. And we blew those 2 candidates out of the water. I think I sent you the work that we did. I think I sent it to you, 7. But that's what we're doing, and that's what needs to be done. We had a power, man. We just got to execute and continue to organize. Our greatest strength is our ability to strategize and organize and mobilize. That's our greatest strength, in my opinion. And doing that, we can conquer any obstacle we want. Take small victories to show people that it can happen, and then begin to build up for bigger victories, and then to replicate ourselves, within our confounds, first in our cities, then in our counties, and then in our states, and then all the way across the country. I mean,
and I'm with you, DJ, because I got elected as a precinct committee man too.
Oh, good.
There wasn't nobody going up against me, but still, I
it's
got
the process.
Yeah,
that's right.
So and that again, I doubt I'm ever running for office again. That's not my forte. I want to teach, because that's what I learned, that there's so many people running for office, they don't even understand the job description for that office. So that's why you're making promises that are not real. And that's why here we are 50 years later, still going on a promise. So the very first piece of legislation that these colonizers passed was the Oath Act. Ain't nobody honoring that because there's no accountability behind that, which is why I come after these judges and prosecutors to put pressure on them. You know, I got a suit right now about the right to bear arms for the formerly incarcerated. It's several suits that's went out, and none of them ever argue the fact that, one, there's no constitutional amendment with an exception clause for people labeled as felons. The only ban that ever happened historically was against the freedmen, the loyalists, and anything that was against this oppressive system, the natives, indigenous. Like, I'm hitting them with this history. They ain't gonna know what to do. You know what I'm saying? Because I'm not in y'all circle. I didn't learn from you. Right. You were not the teacher totally, but I'm like Moses. I went into Pharaoh's camp, came back out there, you know, like, hey, and I ain't gonna forget what I learned.
And now, yeah, right.
Yeah, no, I'm not going away from that. And like I said, for me, it's a unique position because I don't, whatever works is gonna work. And people don't know this collectively, but Trump issued an executive order to reduce the federal code. He said it's too many codes, bro. The power behind that executive order is where I'm coming in to say, you wrote it, let's implement it. Because now we're going to get rid of all these statutes that are codes that ain't nothing but it just went from the Christian code, the slave code, to the federal code, to the criminal code. It's the same code.
Right.
That's the point I'm trying to make. And that's what
Robbie's code.
Yeah. The administrative code. I mean, you know what I'm saying? So these is the things that we don't study it because there's nobody giving it to us. And that's why I feel like, you know, these you said Jody calls them community paralegals or community lawyering, you know.
Yeah.
You know, I just say, you know, whatever it is for me, it's still liberation. It's revolutionary lawyering. That's what I call it, you know.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, because the whole thing is revolutionary freedom, and that has to be done by any means necessary. And if we don't know how to tap into one of the biggest organizations out here is the Women League of Voters. Them women that come from Ida B. Wells, that's who even pushed the 19th Amendment, so that's historical. But they are 50 states, 800 chapters, 30 million members. And out of all the voting rights lawsuits, they are the leading one that is a plaintiff in the voting rights lawsuits. That is why I'm collaborating. Like, yo, this is what I need here, because they're already there. They have the funding, they structure. And one of my elders told me, he said, Andy, if you want to get something done, you put a white woman face in front. Ain't gonna do too much to her. And you know, he's a national folk artist, man, Dr. Charles Smith. And he told me that years ago, and it stuck with me. And now I see how it's manifested. Like, yo, you know what I'm saying? This for me, what Malcolm said, by any means necessary. We got to get this done. And if I got to come out here talking about we trying to create a more perfect union, then we trying to create a more perfect union. Whatever it's going to take, so then we can really bring us back in tune with nature. You know what I'm saying? We want to get back with the natural rights, you know.
Natural, all right.
Right.
Yeah.
That's
yeah.
right.
Absolutely right.
That's where we really at. We're not in tune with nature. We're not in tune with ourselves. We out of whack with our own spirits, and we trying to say I love you, bro. You even know how to love yourself. You can't even respect yourself. How you gonna love somebody if you don't know what it really feels like? And that's for me where the growth came from. Saying, you know what, I'm gonna do this regardless what somebody think or say.
Hey, let me
Right to natural rights. That's
let me make a quick comment, and then my comrade want to give y'all a little something too. Real quick, I want to Andy, I want to connect you. I got comrades in Little Rock, Arkansas. To the comment, put a white woman face up there. She understands this. You don't got to sell her on that. You know, I want to connect you with her, and she's doing beautiful work in Little Rock, Arkansas. She done did yeoman's work, like crazy. And, you know, she comes under, it doesn't really matter to her, Republican, Democrat. Correct. She just want to get the job done. You know what I'm saying? But yeah, let the comrade Lucas give you a little something.
Hey, peace. Thank you, sir. I'm in the call at this time, and I'm thinking what I was going to say, but first thing I wanted to say to Brother Moot was, he said, hella. Where'd you get that from, hella?
Hella.
Man, in the 90s, in 99, I was in Manhattan, and all my friends from San Francisco and Oakland would say hella. And I picked it up from them because, you know, in Jersey, we say certain things. And they were all with the free Mumia move. It's crazy that you picked up hella, because that's when I got started, not even knowing that that Mumia was from Philly. I thought he was from Oakland. That movement was so strong out there for him.
Yes.
But you said natural rights, Mr. Andy, and I was thinking how I can prove. I'm going to promulgate a bill that we can prove that if we truly capture what natural rights was supposed to be, and I'll try to be very brief, but if the Reconstruction era was supposed to capture the full natural rights for Black Americans and arguably all persons born as one example, or all Americans if we can apply it properly. But let's start first with reparations, right? Then we can say, well, why? Because the so-called founding fathers, they look at how many times natural rights is referenced in the organic laws and documents. Actually, in the congressional notes, is it the 39th Congress? They mention natural rights as well, and arguably natural rights, if you really think about it, and we're going to do if it comes from the English law, and that the English law was based on property rights, but they created, subclasses of citizens. But if we really have equal protection and there's no subclass of citizens, I think you have to get rid of prisons and deportation as well, because and there's a reason for that, because the power of the church to excommunicate became the power of deportation or the power of imprisonment, and sub-citizenry was the justification for the death penalty, because one man was not a citizen and his own government murdered him, even though he used his father's name. One of his later students, he was a citizen because he was a soldier, and he spent the time as a soldier persecuting his teacher's followers. Before he let that go, they imprisoned him, and then out of some kind of cruel mercy, he was murdered. Those two men was Jesus and Paul the Apostle. So we're not following natural rights no more. We're following what we inherited from the Roman laws, the idea of subclass citizenship and imprisonment period. They should be completely stricken within a generation, if not two, because that's not natural. It's by definition cruel and unhuman, and sub-citizenship is not even part of our organic natural laws. The founding fathers said laws of nature and of nature's God, and they mentioned naturalization in the Declaration of Independence and in the Constitution, because they wanted those equal rights for themselves. So if the Reconstruction era is to undo what they denied for countless millions others, then if we can undo that, man, we could really do something with these organic laws and these Reconstruction laws, and we could be a beacon again for the world, man, the United States.
No, hey, listen, I'm hearing you talk, man, and once I finish this response brief, man, I want to send it to you about the right to bear arms. I'm gonna send it to you, but that's why I keep saying by the year 2028 we need to be able to infiltrate Congress, because then, but I don't mean infiltrated following monkey see monkey do type stuff, or the blind leading the blind. I'm saying when you really understand what this is, and that's why the brothers and sisters that advocate for their own freedom and liberation, it's easier to reach them. Because when we start talking about natural rights and natural law, it's just a light bulb clicks on. It's not like this long drawn out thing. And I'm not trying to wake up somebody that's asleep no more. I'm not doing that. You either with this or you not, because I don't have the time to be sitting over here trying to convince you what your freedom looks like. I want to be with my wife. I want to travel the world with her. We build the institutions to do that, but it's nothing but 300 people. And that's about 500 letters that's got to go out to the elected officials, to the brothers and sisters behind the wall on these modern day plantations. And then they get to see there's actually somebody out here that's liberating for you. Because in Illinois, that's the letters I get. Bro, ain't nobody teaching us what you're doing, fam. I'm bringing 20-something lawyers together to say revolutionary lawyering is to now collaborate with these brothers and sisters behind the wall. I sued 31 states for slavery as a private attorney general. So you don't have standing. I did it anyway because I did. If Congress created it, then I have the ability. And I never get discouraged, because what they said, the only way to do this is if you amend the Constitution. So now I use that in all my arguments. Oh, that don't apply this time. Don't matter, because they just teaching me. And to hear you talk, It reminds me of King Downey over here, man. That brother be giving some good nuggets, man. So, man, I'm hey, thank you, DJ. I'm glad I got on here today.
Thank you. Really appreciate that. Yeah. Some other things that we've been talking about is trying to get like a CRB, right? Community Review Board to actually civilian review board. A lot of times it's controlled by the politicians, so we can't really get anything done. And I'm glad Muti's there. Actually, when he talked about bringing Chris Robb on board, he's getting a lot of national attention. Actually, I tried to get Andy paired up with the white girl, Kat Abzugale, right? She's actually making a lot of national headlines, but for some reason in Illinois, she doesn't even talk with me. I'm an actual surviving war victim. I have been strongly fighting against, what's going on in Israel-Palestine, but you could see that for some reason, a lot of the cast that's running the anti-war movement, and unfortunately some of them, right, PSL, I think they are also involved with, the Leonard Peltier stuff. And I'm not saying everything they do is bad or good, right? I don't think any organizations like that, all good or all bad. But the problem is that at the top, right, Brian Becker, Medea Benjamin, they actually are covering for other elites like Nick Brana or Caleb Maupin, who have been involved in sexual abuse. And they actually installed a guy named Scott Ritter, someone who's been convicted 2 times of pedophilia, once in Pennsylvania, once in New York, convicted. And he's becoming a made man in the anti-war movement because they're trying to normalize the sexual abuse that's going on and tell the rest of the people like myself that are fighting in the anti-war movement. If you look, once again, if I talk about the anti-war movement, there is no Martin Luther King or Malcolm X for us. Most Americans cannot actually name a war victim, even a white war victim from Russia or Ukraine. It's not about race to a certain extent, right? Yeah. So just Muti, once again, right, if you are having some connections to like Chris and those other people who are making national headlines and stuff, I know you're putting in time for them, and I applaud you for that. You're getting to know the local community and stuff like that. But you got Kat Abzugale in your neighborhood. You came down to New York to hang out with me and Mom Donnie, right? I know Aaron Harrington was actually who used to work on Ronnie Long's case. That's another guy that we've worked with who was on death row. And she used to work on his case, and now none of those people are returning my calls. So, Muti, if you're hooked up with these people, I'm not trying to say, right, everything they do is bad. I appreciate some things they're doing, but holding some people accountable, even in these groups, right, you become a pariah. So, I've been canceled from that world to an extent, but maybe we can make some progress. That'd be great. I think that you also want to talk about some of I know you have a lawyer here, which is wonderful. You want to talk about some of your legal victories, Muti? Share what's going on.
He left.
Or you could go ahead.
Muti, he jumped out of the meeting because we were actually pulling up to a community meeting. But I'll definitely pass the message about reaching out to state reps. Muti and I actually work. I formulated a nonprofit, and we're a 501c3. We're also going to create a 501c4 around legislative advocacy. What really just to capture all the activism and the outreach and the education. There's like a blueprint that we can create based really modeling after what is already going on in Philadelphia. Philadelphia is such a lively community of activism and welcoming. And I've created this platform called Community Justice Partnerships, and I've invited Moody to be an executive director with us. And we were focusing on working on exonerations, cases of actual innocence, we're working with different lifers associations to bring bills to the front table. We're working on HB 150, which I believe passed the state representatives in the General Assembly. They passed the bill. HB 1550 is now up. It was sponsored by Danilo Burgos last year, and we're working on getting the votes needed to get that passed. HB 150 is for release for prisoners suffering, medical issues, severe medical issues, and then the HB 1550 is for the geriatric and aging population. There's a program to reduce significantly the term of imprisonment and accelerate the date of eligibility for parole. So just locally being a part of it, but I think another part of Philadelphia is an active community that there's people who are alienated. You ask folks, well, why don't you vote? They don't feel like it's part of their community. They're talking about other things. They're distracted by social media, and now they're isolated post-COVID. And what I came to realize is that the active political community in Philadelphia it's just wholesome. It's about community. It's about gatherings. It's about music. It's about arts and education, and using all of these, just as I said, wholesome and healthy things to bring people together. And
Sure.
that's poetry. That's all part of like how a city is supposed to unite, and how people are supposed to share ideas, and then actually have a political goal and get people who believe like you believe in important issues into office. Is kind of crazy, right? It's like sitting around the couch and talking about, hey, we should take over our government. And it's like, yeah, we're actually working on that right now. You ready
Right.
to run? That's like that's a dream of any community to actually take that mantle and take it seriously,
The one
and
thing
to win elections.
One thing that would be very cool, actually, I have a program called UnifiedPlatformUSA.com, where I've put together candidates from all across the country, Republicans and Democrats, to see what we can agree on. In the 22 election cycle, we have, I think, over 30 different policies that we agreed on criminal justice reform alone, such as ending predatory pricing on prison commissary, and ending for-profit prisons. We got both people from both parties to unanimously agree to those proposals. But really over here, right, I know Andy's been working on this more directly and is more really direct to connect with those experiences. I've been trying to get maybe a list of people that have been formerly incarcerated in my assembly district so I could contact them and tell them about, right, this movement that you're working on. Is there a website that I could point to them to, and how can I get these lists? Maybe you have some, because I've sent commissary to people before, but I was able to look them by name or by prisoner number. But I just want to contact all of them. You have any recommendations, Andy?
Well, it's all grassroots for me. I do it one by one, and
Okay.
then I run across Muti or somebody like that, and I'm like, there's a new door opening right there.
All right.
I think you
Muti
on
just got his
mute.
mic back on, I think.
I can't hear
Oh, there
nobody.
you go. There you go. Can you hear
Yeah,
that?
I'm on.
Okay.
Yep. We hear you,
I
Muti.
can just barely hear it though.
Is it on your car speaker?
No, it's on the car. Oh, speakers off. Well, how come I can barely hear this, John? Oh, here it is. I got it.
You work at security.
Yeah,
Blackout security services.
Yeah, I'm holding it down.
We're good to go.
I might need your help. So
You got it.
we
Yeah,
was
I
talking.
just do organic. You know what I'm saying? I
You
go
already
online, see
know.
somebody that works, send them
And
a
then
message,
the whole,
reach out to
I
another
want to
brother, send
ruin
a
your
message.
night, but the
Because
whole
once you get one point of contact in the state,
Gilligan's Island and
somebody
Huey and
that's in this
Willie
every
and
single
Wallow and
life,
Hollow.
I ain't got nothing to do with
Let me
it.
see. Let me see if I can mute Muti over here.
Then there's a lot of organizations out here. Again, just being able to talk to Mookie, that means I don't got to do the vet process. It's already been vetted. It's already been done.
Yeah,
It's
a beautiful thing.
So yesterday,
It's a beautiful thing. We out here right now. We in I think we in the Northeast. We came to this event. They doing something over here somewhere. And I'm sitting on the corner talking to Nate the Great. I really want him to talk to y'all and give y'all a little something from his
I
perspective.
think that the guy in the car, I think his mic is still on because there's still like a lot of like background noise coming in. It sounds like he's talking on his phone in the car.
No, he's outside the car.
But he's outside the car. He's
Okay, is there
outside the
someone else
car with
talking?
me.
I'm sorry.
Yeah,
Okay.
they sitting there talking, having a conversation right now. They right
Okay,
there,
I'm
see?
sorry. Okay, my bad. Okay.
say hello to these folks.
Hey, check this out. This Nate the Great.
Hey, yo, peace and love, family. What's going on?
Peace, fam. Freedom, man. What's happening?
Yo, we out here holding it down like gravity. You know what I'm saying? Every day. Walking it like we talking. Walking it like we talking. Every single day. What's up with y'all? It look like we in three different time zones. What's going on? We in a bunch of different time zones.
Yo, so
I'm
What'd you
in
say?
Illinois. I'm in Illinois.
Illinois? And where you at up top? Brother,
I'm in
your
New
name?
York.
Where you at top? You in New
L7.
York. Okay, New York,
Yeah.
Illinois, and Philadelphia. Okay, let's go. All right, so we got to triangulate it. I guess we got to all use this digital space for the best that we can do it. Yo, so we got. Do I tell them what's the agenda? Or,
Yeah,
do you know?
absolutely. Tell them what you were just telling me about food and how we talking about actually going at that.
Oh, yeah. How about it?
The story about Einstein Hospital.
Correct. So I was gonna go somewhere else, but this is right off the presses. So yesterday I'm at Albert Einstein Hospital, right? Albert Einstein Hospital. So I don't eat animals. So I go in Albert Einstein Hospital, just in the neighborhood I was at. I go into the cafeteria so I can eat because I'm vegan. I don't eat animals. So I go into Albert Einstein Hospital. I go in there, is chicken and beef and pork and fish. And I'm like, bro, how is this here in this Albert Einstein Hospital? Albert Einstein was a vegetarian. He specifically changed his diet to vegetarian because of his health. Because of his decline in health, he said, I gotta stop eating these roast pork sandwiches and shit. So how could you now have this hospital under Albert Einstein's name and serve the devil in it? This is hurting people.
Right.
Even Albert Einstein said that before he died, that this is bad for people. So what you're doing is you're using Albert Einstein's name to exacerbate these people's medical conditions that gonna feed the pharmaceutical company because you're gonna give them a prescription that's gonna feed this hospital because you're also gonna give them a procedure. So what they've done is created this what they call it? What they call it when the cops get you and it's like a thing they automatically whatever that is, they set that up. And I was enlightening them before they called security and threw me out. That if you was to research places on earth where people live the longest and have the least amount of diseases, you're gonna come across blue zones. You would think it's maybe something geographical, maybe because where they at to the equator or something like that. Nah, they're scattered all over the earth. There's even one in America, in California, where the worst air is at in the world, damn near, in Loma Linda, California. One thing that blue zones all have in common is a plant-based diet. Our hospitals should be blue zones. They should not have death and destruction and carcinogens on a plate in our hospitals should be our blue zones. Why are we setting up our hospitals for people that don't want to live? You don't want to live if you come in here and order goddamn roast beef pot roast sandwich. You don't want to live. There's not the place for that. And then to put it under the name of Albert Einstein, I think that's like a double, deception. Because number one, when you hear Einstein, it's synonymous with genius. Like somebody will say, "Yo, look at Einstein over here." Like you know what I'm saying? Like I ain't the Einstein about it. Like that's synonymous with genius. So attached, and then most geniuses are vegetarian. It's not just Einstein. It's Tesla, Thomas Edison. Like you can keep going. So it makes sense. It's for optimal brain health, heart health, the body overall. So
Yeah, we do have to learn to take care of ourselves. I guess that was it. Yeah, I wish. Well, yeah. Go ahead. But keep talking about with the work that you were doing and what you think are the priorities for us to really get this abolition movement going. I'm sorry, you're muted.
So the abolitionist movement has been going. It's just then came up under other names and then started getting watered down because people were getting discouraged because they wasn't prevailing. So right now, our main priority is just
come back out and get a job.
prisoners voting right.
Walk in there and see what's going on.
Because that's something that I'm doing. I have the lived experience.
Yeah, I gotta make sure these people don't drive
Yo,
down here.
Muti, I'm so sorry. Can you guys mute yourselves? Let me see.
That's the best.
I can mute him. Okay. I muted him for right now. I'm sorry.
And the second thing is just to get down with this repealing these unconstitutional statutes. And then the third thing, which I really think is the first thing, is merely education. Because like you said, name one POW. Name anybody. And a lot of times we just go with what we hear that's popular instead of what's real, actual, and factual. And so I think the education, is important, but education with the goal of implementation. Because a lot of times we get the information, but then there's no implementation plan behind the information. So that's what I feel like has to be done. Needs to be action steps. No more of these gatekeepers trying to hold out and it's okay if they do that. Again, we're not going to change people's mindset. We just have to be able to, give the information. Those who apply it, meet up where they're at. If they're not on the same stage, cool. Remember, but keep moving. And that's it. And that's where I'm at with it.
Yeah. Muti, I'm so sorry, man. I just muted you. The thing is that there's a lot of background noise. So when you want to speak, like unmute yourself. But when you're not speaking, if you could mute yourself, I really appreciate it. I'm gonna unmute you now so you could speak. But that there's a lot of background noise where you're at, and it's really
Is it noise now?
No,
Is it
it's okay.
noisy
Go ahead.
now?
No, it's okay.
Is it noisy now?
nope.
No.
No, it's not. No. All right, that's because I turned the phone the other way. It was just two people having a conversation. It was actually three, two passerbys just coming from the event that we was telling you about. We go ahead and walk down there and see what's going on. But let me touch on something real quick. In terms of the POW thing and the PPs, the political prisoners, language again. I don't know if any of y'all read the book Inadmissible Evidence by Evelyn Williams, who was Assata Shakur's aunt, and she defended many of the members of the Black Liberation Army. And in her book, she has the definition of what a political how you doing what a political prisoner is, and her political prisoner, her definition I really like more than anything, because she says all Black people are political prisoners, not because of their political activities that quote unquote got them in prison, but rather the onus is really on the system. These are my words, but basically we saying the same thing, because of the system of white supremacy. They the ones that did so. It's because of their politics and their movement is why Black people find themselves in American prisons. So therefore, she said that all Black people in prison are political prisoners. And so I used that definition when Geronimo Jajaga got out of prison. I think 2 days later, they had an event for Mumia right here in Philadelphia, and he came out to support Mumia. And right after I listened to him speak on Reggie Bryan's show, which is called Catharsis, and having him speak Reggie Bryan's show, he talked about what he went through in the 27 years he did in California prison for a crime he didn't commit. COINTELPRO set him up. And so I wrote a political prisoners report based on his account of, coming to in defense of Mumia, and coming right out of the California prison system, represented by Johnny Cochran, et cetera, et cetera. And one of respect to the great work that the sisters and brothers and the Jericho movement is doing. However, their definition of political prisoner or POW is limited. And I used Evelyn Williams' definition because it's more inclusive. Their definition is those who are in prison, political prisoners or POWs for the war that they was in defense of the war that they was waging, from the undeclared war that's been declared by the United States government against Black people. So for me, that's too limited. And in my report, I showed there were two types of political prisoners. One who's a victim of the political system, and the other is because of their political activities. The first one I named a sister named Grandma Betty Patterson. She was put in prison because the police officers who wanted to get her sons, they accused her sons of being drug dealers, and they couldn't, in their estimation, they couldn't never catch the sons so-called doing the dirty deed. So what they did was they went to their mother's house, framed them up, and planted drugs on her, and arrested her, took her to prison and all of that. And then it all came out that that's exactly what happened. And she was exonerated. She sued, got something like $1 million. She spent like 2-3 years of her life in prison. That's political prisoner A, and those are the most common. And then there's political prisoner B. I use Mumia as an example of, because of his work with the Panthers since he was 15 years old. He was a threat. The United States government, the FBI, and the CIA was following him all around the country because he was organizing for the Panthers. So that's political prisoner and POW too. And that's A and B. I said, however, all of the support and attention goes to the few of B, and none, which is the most majority, is A.
Right.
They get very few or no support at all. And we need to expand the definition of what political prisoners and POWs are so that we could advocate for them and say so unashamed. unashamedly, because that's another thing we skirt around it. We don't want to talk about political prisoners and POWs. They always talk about political prisoners or dissidents in other countries. In fact, they even the United States even allow dissidents to come from other countries and come here, but they don't. But they don't talk about the dissidents right here in America and those who go to prison as a result of their views. They don't even discuss those things, and they are in fact political prisoners and POWs. Even the ones who don't have a contrarian view, they just living their life, and their very life or existence is a political statement. Just trying to be who you are as an African in this society. I mean, that's a statement in and of itself. Just trying to breathe. Like, it's illegal for Africans to even breathe. It's illegal for people of color to even breathe. It's illegal for poor white people to even breathe. So that's a statement in of itself. So many of us, or most of us, are political prisoners without even articulating, this history and so forth and so on. But it is, in fact, and we have to be able to say that. In all my correspondence, I always talked about that I, myself, and many others are political prisoners, not necessarily for our activities outside the prison, which we did. We came to prison organizing and strategizing before we got to prison, and then we did so more so. And now that we're on the other side of the fence, we're doing it exponentially. But we was political prisoners even before we became as constant as we possibly can.
Why the Amish can't pay taxes? They don't want to find out.
Yes,
All right,
exactly.
all right. I really appreciate that. Just so you know, I wish that my people were better able to. I think that in the email you said, I had emailed the Asian American Bar Association to get involved with this conversation, stuff like that. They didn't respond. Just so you know, you might have known like Andrew Yang, probably one of the most famous Asian American political leaders, but did you know that his staff has no Asian Americans whatsoever? The thing is that if there was a black leader, any black leader who had no black people in his staff, it would probably be questioned, right? But I'm a political leader, right? I mean, I'm sure it happens to not-for-profits all the time. But yeah, the thing is that some things are talked about and some things are not. So we're prisoners in a different sense. But if you look at the numbers, as in terms of that the U.S. publishes, black people are imprisoned at 5 times the rate of whites, which is insane. Also, the the Pacific Islanders are actually imprisoned more than Latinos, but this is not really talked about. So there's a lot of unknown or unaddressed issues that are in this space. But I do definitely have a strong sense of solidarity for what. And the thing is, that the civil rights movement, we look at Malcolm X and Martin Luther King, they often made a lot of allusion to the anti-war movement, how it was a similar fight and struggle. The anti-war movement should be actually working more closely with the abolition movement, but there's people at the top who are keeping it apart. For example, they talk about all this stuff about Gaza, but notice that that the same energy doesn't exist when there's one of the largest transfers of property is going on in Puerto Rico right now. The indigenous things that are happening here in this country are ignored while we talk about indigenous people abroad. There's some manipulation of the narrative that's going on there, of people that are choosing narratives that are convenient for themselves. But once again, so much respect to Andy Williams Jr. and this movement of abolition. The previously incarcerated Muti and Andy Williams are the best of the bunch, within that community. But that community is very, very strong politically. Out of my entire coalition, they are some of the best. And so, Andy, what's your website for people that have been formerly incarcerated, they could learn and start to work together with you? Because being educated and working together, that's where the power is at.
So it's www.ncpvr.us. That's the website for the prisoners' voting rights, and just go there. That would be the best site to go to, because that's what we're focused on right now. So,
Muti, you also had one thing that I think that you talked about earlier about an exciting thing happening where something was struck down regarding second-degree murder and eligibility. Do you want to say something about that?
Yeah, the noise is gonna be a little bit more because I'm around a whole bunch of people, whole bunch of food trucks and all of that. So the static is gonna be a little. I'm gonna stand over here by the wall so we can yeah, the second degree situation. Um, in 1983, I argued what was then called by the courts a novel argument, and I argued that the mandatory sentence of second degree murder, the mandatory sentence of death by imprisonment by second degree murder was unconstitutional according to the Pennsylvania Constitution and United States Constitution, more so the Pennsylvania Constitution than the federal Constitution. Um, and they shot it down then simply because I didn't have the team. The argument was clear and it was solid, but I didn't have no team, so they were just like, you're a lowly Negro, and so because you don't got no team, we're not going to honor it. Well, 43 years later, that argument, I developed the argument for about 10 years, and I took that baby and grew it up to about 10 years old, and then I put it in the hands of some competent litigators, lawyers who have not been authorized by white people, and they developed it over the years, and now, it's coming to fruition. We argued and we just won. Um, and so what that does, it says that Pennsylvania, unlike most places in the country, was only like maybe two other states or one other state that had the second degree murder, which was a mandatory sentence of death by imprisonment, so-called life without parole. Um, no other state had where Pennsylvania's second degree murder was more severe than many states' first degree murder. And so that's what was so unique about Pennsylvania. For many years, the state of Pennsylvania and not Illinois, excuse me, state of Pennsylvania and Louisiana were going back and forth who had the most deaths, what we call deaths, that is the women and men who have been sentenced to die in prison, that is death by imprisonment, who had the most. Like, we would have it for about 5 years, and then they would come up and pass us back. It went back and forth. And then one time, like, we ran it for about 10 years. It's like a list you really don't want to be on, but that's how it was, back and forth. And that's why when we came up with the argument for children who had been sentenced to die in prison, that was the first argument that we put together. And we got folks on the national level to argue that before the United States Supreme Court. And they did so successfully. They argued a series of cases starting with not Strickland, Atkins versus Virginia. Because what we discovered was the white supremacists, whether they were liberal white supremacists or conservative white supremacists, didn't really matter. Whether they were Democratic white supremacists or whatever Republican white supremacists, didn't really matter. They were just white supremacists. The false dichotomy that they create, we the ones that buy into that, and keep us divided when we don't understand that those are just labels to keep us divided. The moment we decide to unify, we can actually, overcome any obstacles or distractions that they put in our way. But once they decided to, but once we decided to fight to destroy the sentence of death by imprisonment, we started out with children. And because I myself was a child, when I was prosecuted as a child for a crime I didn't commit, homicide, robbery, with the evidence to prove it, that movement took foot. And as we know, it ran, starting from Atkins versus Virginia, like in, I think, 1989 or 93. And then that was settled, which Atkins stopped the state from being able to execute children who were mentally ill. And then after Atkins was Simmons versus I forget Simmons versus I think it's Simmons versus Colorado, where they struck down death penalty for children. And then after that, we had a case out of Florida versus I think Jackson, that struck down the sentence of death by imprisonment for those children who had not been convicted of murder. And then after that, there was a case 4 or 5 years after that, was North Carolina and JBC versus North Carolina, which made it unlawful to prosecute children without, when you considered children, you had to Mirandize them, and in order to Mirandize them, you had to consider the fact that they were children. And then after that was another case. This was all like in a 22-year span. And
If I
then
could just
after
ask
that,
if I could just ask a quick question. At
yes,
one
sir.
point, you said you had the seed of the idea. And then you said at another point, right, some legal team came in and helped you actually bring this to fruition. Other people may have their own insights about how they could fix the system. How can they go about making that leap from having the idea to actually getting it right? Like you said, right, these cases heard and actually actual change occur.
Well, I mean, Andy pointed it out in the beginning in his opening salvo. Like we, for us, we got the language. We once we learn the law, we don't need them for nothing. We put that shit together. We put it together and say, yo, this is what we doing. You know what I'm saying? And you challenge them. And you're gonna be so surprised when you challenge them, they have no rebuttal. They have no retort. They have no refutation because it's crystal clear. Like read the Federalist Papers, man. You read the Federalist Papers, though most of them was enslaving bastards, but some of the shit that they say, you can see that they envision what was going to happen, and some of the things that's being done right now today is in direct contradiction of the Federalist Papers. I mean, so many. Just go read some of the state statutes around the country. You're going to see the answers right there. And read the federal, what you call them, the Trump thing. With let me say something about Trump. He's a complete, total white supremacist, vicious. But we need to take some of the things that he do and use it. For example, one of the things we do with our court watch, with an organization I'm working with called GOD, Guardians of Democracy. We go into courts. Now we was doing this before I got with Guardians of Democracy, and going into courts and vindicating the rights of African people, brown people, and poor white people. And one of the things that we was doing, we always been advocates for children. We was advocates for children even when I was a child. So advocating for children was not a big thing for us because we always did it. It was like clockwork. It was like natural. For us, it's like breathing. And so one of the things that they did during the Trump administration, he signed into executive order, where to make it mandatory that all states now do what is called in the interest of justice hearings for children. Now, most states got that on the books, but they wasn't adhering to it. And so he took the position and signed. And I know he didn't come up with this idea. Some of the people around came up with the idea, so he just signed it. Oh, this would be good? Yeah, okay, this would be good. Boom, and then he signed it into law. But it's a tool that we could use, and we have been, and we've seen the results in the Pennsylvania Supreme Court, Pennsylvania Superior Court, Pennsylvania Court of Common Pleas. We've seen the results. When we walk in that courtroom now, we powerhouse. We ain't got no degrees in the law. We not no JDs, but we move the crowd. We get people vindicated on a regular basis. You would swear to God we was lawyers, but we not. You know what I mean? That's for us. That's like an insult. Hell no, I ain't no lawyer. You know what I'm saying? Uh, but but we know how to move the crowd because we understand the language. And really, it comes down to language and the fight. And what we understand is, like, in order to make them do what they supposed to do, you take it to the court of public opinion. That's the highest court in the land. Most people think it's the Supreme Court, but it's not. It's the court of public opinion. That is the Supreme Court. Take the argument to them, and when you educate the people about what it is you're trying to do, they put pressure on the politicians. They put pressure on the judiciary. They put pressure on the legislator. They put pressure on the executive branch because it comes down to many of them for politics. And when you show that this is what's really happening, the people say, yo, either you're going to do this or we're going to vote your ass out, period. You know what I'm
Yeah,
saying? And if you somebody that got lifetime appointment, we apply the pressure to the individuals that put them on the bench. Or we find out where they go to school at. We find out who financing them. We find out the country clubs that they go to. We find out, what organizations they belong to, and we make it uncomfortable for them by exposing them and what they doing with the monies. You know what I'm saying? So that's that, for us, we already got the black print. All we got to do now is execute.
no, you guys are so right, and you guys are very advanced. Also, I want to give props to Andy Williams Jr. as well because he ran for attorney general. A lot of these candidates, they run for state legislator, but that's highly controlled by the party leadership. But once we talk about attorney general, once you talk about the judges, they have the ability to throw cases out. They have the ability to set precedents like you are doing, Muti, right? And then the following judges have to explain why they're overturning that precedent, and then that really determines the interpretation of the law, and the enforcement of the law is really the important. What the law says on words is really not as important as a lot of people think. So, and once again, right, and it's very smart to say that they can undo all these things, right? But it's the law on the street, it's our society, it's our personal networking connection. So Trump needs us right now. Honestly, he's doing horrible as in terms of his his public ratings, right? And we know that after he gets out, he's already a felon, so he could use some reform in the space or some, but unfortunately, he's not really seeming to move in this direction. And I believe it's the professional consultants that are discouraging this, right? Who are kind of like party leaders that already have a status quo and a comfortable base. But Trump, right? You need to you can't trust them anymore, right? They're leading you down into a pit. So once again, shout out to your work with DSA and Chris Robb. I hope you could work with us too. I'm not shutting them out. I'll work with anybody, but they just have to be honestly working with us. So thank you so much for your time, guys. And I think that out of my whole unit and your approach to approaching the judicial system itself is amazing and very key to the difference between your approach versus others, which I think is better.
Hey, Seven, let me make one more point because I sort of didn't really, I wanted to like really drive it in. When I talked about in the interest of justice hearing, what that mechanism does, most states have it, but they don't really honor it. They don't really enforce it. And what it allowed us to do for children is before they wasn't giving them these hearings. And the hearings oftentimes stop them from either getting certified as adults, or the hearing allowed us the opportunity to get them to decertified. So therefore they wouldn't be wound up in the clutches of grown men in these grown men prisons because they children. And then the punishment or the ramifications of the trial process would not be as harsh for them. And so by Trump signing that into law, and most of I'm gonna keep it a buck. Most of these coward ass Democrats, they scared to death of Trump. And so when he said you got to do this, and they fall right in line. I don't care how hardcore they call themselves Democrats, they fell right in line. And we was able to use these in the justice of hearing, the IJC hearings, in the interest of justice hearings to vindicate the rights of many of our children, where otherwise they wasn't getting this vindication and bringing them home and stopping them from doing these ungodly sentences and whatnot and what forth. So, I mean, we got the power, man. You know what I mean? We already got the template, man. All we got to do is execute and keep doing what we're doing now. And that's what we're doing. We connected with one another, right? Let me tell you, true story, Andy. This is why I fuck with Seven, real heavy, right? When I met him in a part of Philadelphia, South Philly, this particular place called Schuylkill Park or Schuylkill, I forget what it's called. But anyway, where it is, they riding motorboats and the little scooters, you ride on the water, and horseback riding, long walks, biking, roller skating. This boy come all the way from Queens to DJ on public transportation. I seen this shit. I said, he's a real motherfucking activist. I said, we're gonna definitely connect, and we've been banging ever since. You know what I mean? So that's what it's really about. Us connecting on every level where we find each other. And since then, he'll tell you, I backed for mayor, I backed David O. And David O is Korean American, right? And he was a Republican. I didn't do it because he was Korean. I didn't do it because he was Republican. I did it because he was the better candidate. The candidate everybody was pushing was a black woman, and they was talking this historical, she could be the first black woman. But no, this black woman was talking about bringing stop and frisk back. And everybody knew that was, and let me give you some background. I'm not trying to hold you hostage, but we had created, we elected a district attorney who was bringing sisters and brothers home in droves through exoneration, through new trials, etc. Now, we just re-elected him for the third time. It's a three-peat. And literally now, the Philadelphia District Attorney's Office leads the country in exonerations, new trials, you name it. And crime is down exponentially. Homicide is down, the lowest it's been since 1966. Rape is down, robbery is down, you name it, it's down. And that's because of the work we put in before we even elected Larry Krasner. So we put the work in. And so now we see the results. And so the mayor comes along because a lot of the county prisons is empty, which feeds the state prisons. Like, there's 67 counties in Pennsylvania. The number one county that feeds the state prisons is Philadelphia County. And then after that is Allegheny County, which is where Pittsburgh is. And then you have some little, black and brown enclaves all throughout the state. So what she was talking about doing is bringing stop and frisk back so she could fill the county prisons up, so that the county prisons can fill the state prisons up because of the what I call the Krasner effect. The what's-it-called was falling off exponentially. People coming home now. Now the guards unions, they ain't gonna have jobs no more. You know what I'm saying? The prisons, once the prisons drop to a certain level, they're slated to be shuttered. And once they shut them, that's it. Now they got to, I always say the prisons are like dogs, and the communities that live off them are parasites. They suck the blood, and we represent the blood for those prisons, because those prisons are just brick buildings, but we the lifeblood. They snatch us up in Allegheny County and from Pittsburgh and Erie County and Dauphin County, which is where Harrisburg is. That's the state's capital. And Philadelphia County and Delaware County and Montgomery County, Bucks County and so forth, all these other black enclaves to fill these prisons up. I mean, the prisons being the dog, and we providing the lifeblood. The communities in which they put them, they ticks. They suck in the blood. They parasite. They suck in the blood of these places. And so what we created in Philadelphia, and it's leading the country now, it's a trend. And so now that's what we're doing because of the work that we put in. Least we forget, we created the toil. We planted the seeds and guarded the toil and broke the soil to make sure somebody like a prosecutor of Larry Krasner can get elected and do what we doing. As soon as he came in, he took Philadelphia County out of the state district attorneys, which are called, because they wasn't practicing law, they was practicing white supremacy. I mean, just all the things he been doing, been getting, invitations in all these law schools across the country and speaking the gospel according to the way he know it to be, that we laid down using the language that we created before he even was elected. You know what I'm saying? So we leading the charge. We setting the 10. We setting the language. That's us. We doing that all across the country. Sisters and brothers is doing this grassroots work. You know what I mean? And we just got to continue to do what we're doing now. Connect and build.
That's real.
And so seven going exchange information, give you my information, and he yours, and then we're gonna continue to, to do what we do.
I already see it.
Yes, sir.
I already see it.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay. Well, man, this is love. This is love.
Andy, where are you right now?
Illinois.
Excellent. And DJ, where are you, sir?
I'm in New York City.
You're welcome to come to Philadelphia.
What part?
I'm actually in some place called Long Island City.
I'm
actually running for the state assembly office that Mom Downing was in before he became mayor.
Okay.
You should visit the City University of New York Law School right there in Long Island City with a public interest law school. You'll find a lot of activists and activists, soon to be lawyers, right there at CUNY in Long Island City. Absolutely, CUNY.
I was there I was there just half an hour ago. They're actually having a redevelopment thing on LIC. We just had the New York's for 7. Nydia Velazquez is stepping down, so they had the Democratic Party debate for disabilities, and that we actually hosted that.
And Andy, we got a contact in Chicago. Are you near Chicago?
Yeah.
One of our contacts uses hip hop as a tool to teach, just to organize youth and teach youth. It's like an anti-violence program, and he's working in the public schools. He's a Grammy-nominated hip-hop producer. Name is Chase Bradley, and he actually sent us a student through the Illinois Department of Health who was looking for 15 hours of paid work, but we didn't have the bandwidth of the staff to a high school student to actually supervise him. But it's an open door that we could potentially partner you with our team and send you youth, especially if you're talking about the 13th Amendment and Freedmen. We can say, "Hello, gay. This is the 13th Amendment, and here I want you to do 15 hours of, whatever it is, handing out flyers, activism, community work, and we could potentially get you paid youth, youth paid through this program. I can make that connection happen for you."
For sure, yeah. Because thanks to Moody, that court of public opinion, I just did a flyer right now about that. about the
Yes,
court public
sir.
opinion.
That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah. Oh, I did it earlier because, like I said, I'm challenging the possession of firearm by people labeled as a felon.
Right.
What they did is they did this felony bypass where the police can just charge you without seeing the prosecutor. Well, that violates Article 1, Section 6 of the Illinois Constitution, because in order to get a warrant, you need it to be with an affidavit in front of a neutral magistrate judge. So y'all just bypassing all of that. Then I got the Supreme Court case, People versus Cochran, that said the role of the prosecutor is to protect the rights of the people, including the defendant. So
Absolutely.
now you violate Article 1, Section 22, the right to bear arms. Man, I did a flyer just to educate the public.
That's right.
Yeah,
Shit,
so that was confirmation.
So listen, Thomas Paine gave out flyers. Why can't you?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? You know what I mean? So I like, you know, it's 2026. We just replicating that which is successful and, you know, and tweaking that which is not successful.
It's called common sense.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. Common sense ain't so common.
Exactly. That's why I don't call it that. I call it cultural sense.
Right.
Everybody's moved off of their cultural understanding of the world and themselves and themselves, their culture, and how it relates to the world. Cultural sense, not common sense, because we know that sense is definitely not common.
Right on.
I'll probably pass you guys like.
Okay.
All right, so that's so we out. Seven's gonna make that connection, and then we're gonna continue to build.
For sure.
Hotep, after Uhuru, stay focused, stay vigilant, brace elevation, or Uhuru Nikasi, freedom is work.
Thanks so much, guys. One love, please. Thank you.